In today's video, we are going to be understanding rates and unit rates. More specifically, unit rates, because they're generally more helpful. Evidence-wise, we're going to learn how do we write a rate. It's the same thing as ratio. And then we're going to calculate a unit rate. That's a little bit more interesting. That's a little bit more challenging. Learning experience is there. Nothing too bad. Might be a little bit of a shorter video today. So what is a rate? A rate is a special type of ratio that compares quantities with unlike units of measurement. So write down that definition into your spiral. That way you have it. We have some examples here while you are doing so. 10 kilometers to 3 minutes, 25 miles to 5 hours, 15 pounds to $12, $3.50 to 7 oranges, 186 beans to 3 bags, or 32 miles per 1 gallon. All of these are rates because both both numbers have different units of measurement. In that first one, for example, we have distance and time. Second one, we have distance and time again. Third one, we have weight and cost. Then we have cost and amount. The fifth one's a little bit interesting because they're both amounts, but they're amounts of different things, being beans and bags. And the last one is distance to volume, basically. The other thing to notice is that every single one of these is written as though it were a fraction, bearing in mind that Google Slides does not let me easily make fractions. I would very, very much suggest when you're making a rate, write it as a fraction. If you write it using one of the other methods for a ratio, that's fine, but I would suggest using a fraction from here on out. Pause the video if you need to still write down the definition for a rate. So unit rates. Unit rates are a little bit more interesting and more useful. A unit rate is just going to be a rate that compares something to one of something else. For example, we have this rate. This is one of the examples. We have 25 miles to 5 hours. If we were to find a unit rate, we're going to have some number of miles to 1 hour. Whenever we are looking for a unit rate, we should have 1 on the bottom. And you might want to write that down as well, if that'll help you remember. So we want our bottom number, or our second term bottom number, to be 1. This is always going to be the case whenever you are making a unit rate. So how do we then get it? Well, we have to think, what can we do to 5 hours to get us 1 hour? Now, some of you might already be saying, oh, we can subtract. But remember, when we're dealing with rates and ratios, we almost never subtract or add anything. So the other way of making something smaller would be division. Fortunately, anything divided by itself is just going to be 1. So 5 divided by 5 would be 1. Now, the fun part of this is you have to remember to do the same thing to both sides. That means that we're also going to divide our top number by 5 as well. Quite often, this means that you're going to have to do some long division. I'm going to guess that most of you know what 25 divided by 5 is, but just to refresh yourself on long division, we'll do this problem as though it were. So, how many times does 5 go into 2? It doesn't, so we put a 0 there. Then we look at 25. How many times does 5 go into 25? It goes in 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. We subtract, we get a 0 here. So our answer would be 5 miles. So our unit rate is 5 miles for 1 hour. Pause the video, write this down. again, remember that your top number isn't always going to be a whole number anymore. There are times when it's going to be a decimal. I would not suggest making it a fraction, but it could be a decimal over one of whatever value. Our you-do for today, you are going to calculate this unit rate. You have $63 to 7 blocks of cheese. You're going to find the unit rate, find the cost essentially for 1 block of cheese. Pause the video, work on this, make sure to show all of your work. Ready, go. So things to remember from this video. A rate compares two quantities with unlike units of measurement. That basically means that the two things that you're comparing shouldn't have the same units. They could be different objects, like one of the examples we looked at were beans and bags. That's okay. But generally speaking, it's probably going to be something like distance or time or cost, probably. A unit rate compares a quantity to one of another quantity. That's really, really important, that the second value should be a 1. It's not necessarily going to start off that way, but it's really important to remember that that second term needs to be a 1. And to do that, you really just need to divide both terms by that second number. In the example that we looked at, we just had to divide both of them by 5 because our second number, our denominator, since we were writing them as a fraction, was 5. That's all you got to do. So pause the video if you need to write any of these down, and then we're going to look at our suggested practice problems for today. Our suggested practice problems for today, the first thing you're going to do are calculate a bunch of unit rates. Now you might look at this table and realize that that's basically the same thing as what we had in our examples from what is a rate. This time we need to calculate the unit rates. They're not all going to be whole numbers. For example, 10 kilometers for every 3 minutes. That is not going to give you a nice number. That's okay. Use long division. Then, and this will be a little bit of a challenge because it's going to be what we're going to extend this to, using your unit rates from the red problem, which is the $3.50 to 7 oranges, you are going to use the unit rate to help you calculate the cost of 4 oranges. We didn't talk about how to do that in this video, but I want to see what you can try to do based on what you know. Pause the video, and good luck.